This is Chief Bob Chamberlin. I'm the elected Chief Counselor of the Kwik-Wasutinu Haxwa'mis First Nation of Guilford Island. We are part of the Musqueam Zowdano Tribal Council and our collective territories, many of you know as the Broughton Archipelago. Now I'm recording this message primarily for First Nations people and First Nation leadership to consider. And it's based upon correspondence that we've received from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and their intentions and their plans, which are now being initiated for the expansion of the fish farm industry in our territory. In this message, I want to outline how DFO has failed and continues to fail First Nations in regards to their consultative responsibilities. I want to outline DFO process and engagement with First Nations and how pathetic their response has been to the good work put forward by First Nations people. I want to speak briefly about a national initiative which I feel is the basis for the expansions that are only now starting to witness in British Columbia. In 2009, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans was court-ordered to develop new aquaculture regulations. And the First Nation Fisheries Council engaged in a number of regional sessions in British Columbia. I was participative to all of them, and I really was happy to see the level of engagement First Nations and the responsibility that we exercised. But the saddest part of it all is that there's not one word of it that showed up in the regulations from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. With the new regulations, they issued new fish farm licenses. And I can report to you that there was no adequate consultation. There was no resources for capacity to engage. And when we wanted to engage on a license-by-license basis, they explained to us that they were going to be developing a regional management planning regime, which would give us so much comfort that we wouldn't want to engage on a license-by-license basis. We know today that that regional process is called the Integrated Aquaculture Management Plan, or IMAP as we refer to it in the meetings with DFO. Now this is still under discussion. There's terms of reference, but it has not been finalized nor implemented. And along comes another notion from the DFO for something called AMAC, which is the Aquaculture Management Advisory Committee. This is an industry-dominated table, clean and simple. There's space for government, business or fish farm companies, fish farm associations, First Nations, and environmental groups. It's been reported from the environmental groups that they are not going to participate because they see the writing on the wall with this effort, that it is industry dominated. And the most troubling part of this is the fact that this AMAC is what is going to set the table for the IMAP. So it is going to be industry leading the science and the research and siting criteria development and so forth that is going to be found in the Integrated Aquaculture Management Plan. And the troubling aspect of this is that the DFO continues to put stakeholder interest over and above First Nation rights. And I say this knowing that the First Nation Fisheries Council applied for a certain amount of monies to adequately gather First Nation perspective, and we received 1/10 of what we asked for. And only we have found out recently that the Aboriginal Aquaculture Association has been given $300,000, I believe it is, for this year and for the 3 years to come. And to me, that's another signal that this is an industry-dominated process. And it's time for us to stand tall on this for wild salmon. Cohen made some very clear recommendations. They are now being ignored. We have a government hell-bent on expansion of this industry, and they're going to expand the industry even before they have their ducks in a row, even before they have a management plan for the province of BC. And so I ask you as First Nation peoples, and I ask you as First Nation leaders, is this good enough for you? I want you to reflect on just how much wild salmon means to all of our peoples on the coast and well up into the interior. Gaelic Island.